सहना भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Before we continue, today being the last day, we'll take a brief recap of what we've discussed so far. Yesterday, sorry. We looked at the fast track to excellence, which is sincerity of action, purity of heart, clarity of thought. Then we looked at verse 31, which says, if you follow the teaching of verse 30 with Shraddha, without malice, then you will gain freedom. Freedom means freedom from vasana. If you don't follow this prescription, you will be ruined. There is destruction. As we saw earlier, he's not cursing, he's just stating a fact. It's like saying, if you respect the law of gravity, you will do well. If you violate it, you will go crashing down. It's as simple as that. Then we looked at likes and dislikes are our enemy. And these likes and dislikes, we pamper, we nourish, we encourage, and get into trouble. And the last thing we looked at is the importance of Swadharma. Swadharma, your own nature, your talent, your passion, your gift. Now, this story so far means what? Let's take a look at the gist of the third chapter up to verse 35 that we did yesterday. First, we began with Arjuna's question, which said, do I act or do I follow knowledge? The path of action or path of knowledge? And Krishna answers that there are two distinct paths, the path of action for the active and path of knowledge for the contemplative. Then he shifts to action because Arjuna is a man of action. He needs action. And not just Arjuna, all of us are meant for the path of action because we have a lot of desires within us, vasanas. So action is a must. Even the maintenance of your body would be impossible without action. Then what kind of action? Because all of us are also performing action. What kind of action? Niyatam karma, obligatory duty. Then in verse 10, he introduces the concept of yajna and says that when the human being was created in the beginning, he was created sahayajna, along with the capacity to sacrifice. And Prajapati, the creator, said, with this may you prosper. Which means without it, it is impossible to prosper. And all of us are trying to prosper without it. What is yajna? The ability to set aside your selfish interests and commit yourself to a higher goal. Work in a spirit of service and sacrifice for that higher goal, setting aside your selfishness. That is yajna. And the result of yajna is you get tremendous success and prosperity. You will be a happy person and you grow spiritually. Then we looked at there are three types of actions that you can perform: sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic action. Tamasic action is helping yourself to the benefits that the system gives you, whatever it be, whether it is the family or society or nature itself. What you get without so much as a thought of returning, giving back, then you're a thief, says Krishna. The Rajasic person cooks but eats sin, works very hard but doesn't get the benefit of it. He only gets mental agitation and stress. Sattvic person is the only one who enjoys life. What does he enjoy? The fruit of the result of sacrifice. Yajna Shishta means that which is left over after sacrifice is very, very sweet. But for which you must sacrifice first. And they not only enjoy, but they evolve spiritually. Then we saw the concept of detachment. Because Krishna says, as the ignorant act with attachment, so should you act without attachment, wishing the well being of the world. So, the only way of enjoying life is to detach. As long as you're attached to anything, you cannot enjoy. This is a law. And all of us are attached to so many things. Anything you come in contact with, how do you get attached? By thinking, constant thinking. So anything and anybody you come across, you keep saying, like, let's say you step into a new car. Nice car, nice car, nice car, nice car, nice car. Before long, you're attached to it. Then you want it, you want to buy it, you want to enjoy it. Same thing with a person. You meet a person for the first time, or you just say, nice person, nice person, nice person. Before you know it, you're attached. Attachment is bondage. Like we've all come here. If you tie yourself to the chair, then you get immobilized. You can't move. After 7:30, you just can't move. Like this, we get bound to so many things. And by the time you're a full grown adult, this is from childhood onwards, you're immobilized. You can't move. So you hear people say, what to do? Children come home from school, after that I'm bound. Arre? Why are you bound is the question. Let the children come home. I can't come to the lectures because my husband comes home. Let the husband come home. But it's your mental bondage that ties you up. And if you want to enjoy life, you must detach. Detach and enjoy is the law of life. Then we looked at how gunas function. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Everywhere it is the gunas that are functioning. Atman has nothing to do with the functioning. Atman only empowers it, enables your movement, enables your action, enables you to do whatever you're doing. But the quality of the action is determined by the gunas, means vasanas. Atman is immaculate, perfect, and that's what you are. And then we looked at perfect action. So this is the story so far. Now we move to verse 36. Arjuna uvacha atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. Before we move to the next verse, this higher ideal is something that people just can't relate to. So many people say, I don't know how to fix a higher ideal. Because you've got boxed in with self-thought so much. All your life you've been thinking only of self. And what is convenient for you, that's it. You can't think beyond the tip of your nose. And that is why we have no pride in being Indian. We have no thought of what should I do for the country. There is no affection, there's no affiliation. There is no gratitude for what you have. Yes, there are many things wrong in our country today, but it's only 75 years since we got independence. For a good 200 years, we were under British rule, who absolutely, the British finished us off. 7 man-made famines, in each of which 3 million Indians were done to death deliberately. And so many other things they did. And the worst was, they left us with a horrible inferiority complex. So we don't like Indian food, we don't like Indian dress, we don't like Indian language, we don't like Indian anything. How can you prosper? How can you do well when you are weighed down with this inferiority complex? So much so that today children are telling the mothers, don't wear a sari and come to school. Restaurants are saying a sari is inappropriate dress. Since when did the sari become inappropriate? You can wear skimpy clothes and go, that is appropriate. Disgusting thought. And therefore we are ready to jump out of India and go to any country, however bad it may be. That is why the world looks upon us with contempt. People, you look at a Thai person, what does Thailand have compared to India? Yet every Thai is proud to be a Thai. They follow their customs. They speak their language. They don't say hi. They, in fact, do namaste. They eat their food. They don't eat Mexican and Italian food on a daily basis. How far down are we going to go before we understand? Take anything. Take tourism. What does Thailand have compared to India? All it needs is a little investment in infrastructure, a little management, and we don't need to go into manufacturing and this, that, and the only tourism we can live by. Make huge profits right there. But someone has to have the will, someone has to have that vision, someone has to have that commitment to the country that, yes, I will do something. You can't just jump ship just because it's not convenient for you. I know a Supreme Court judge who told me in her days when people went abroad to study, they went with the intention of coming back. Today, kids are sent after 10 standard when they are kids. So they never come back. And they don't understand, those countries don't want you. They just about tolerate you. America doesn't want Indians. England, of course, doesn't want Indians. No European country wants Indians. You force yourself uninvited onto people. And of course, you're treated like dirt, second class citizens. But you would rather do that than be a first class citizen here. So, that tomorrow is our Independence Day. Just to get people to put up the flag is a problem. Why should I? I don't know when we're going to understand the wealth of assets that we have here in India. The spiritual assets, which can actually translate into material assets, into money. But we are just not. It's like Christ said, throwing pearl before swine. You have no value for it. There's no point talking about it. And yet, this knowledge is so refreshing. people who have had the good fortune of coming here over the last 7 days have said, have actually felt the difference. It's so refreshing. It's like a breath of fresh air. In your normal, sordid, boring lives, this gives some enthusiasm to you, some cheer, dynamism. And if you continue with it, you will be the epitome of cheer and happiness. So, in 36, Arjuna asks a question. O Varshneya, another name for. Can you all please make sure that your cell phones are on silent just for 1 hour? Thank you. O Varshneya, what drives a person to commit sin, even against one's wish, as if compelled by force? Baladiva niyojitaha. So, this is something that we all experience. This is a question that any of us could ask. And that question is, I know what is right. I know I should be using the intellect. I know I should be controlling my desire. I know I should be controlling my appetites. I know I should not do excessive indulgence. All of this you know. But what is it that drives me to do what I think is wrong and prevents me from doing what is right? This is Arjuna's question. This is your question. So, with this verse, we enter the second last topic, obstacles to right action. And Krishna answers beautifully in verse 36 onwards, actually.
Shri Bhagavanuvacha
37.
Kama esha krodha esha Rajo guna samudbhavaha Mahashano mahapapma Vidhyena miha vairinam.
So, Sri Bhagavan, the Blessed Lord, answers, Kama esha, Krodha esha. It is desire, it is anger, Rajoguna samudbhava, arises from the quality of Rajas. It is Mahashana, voracious devourer. It just eats you up. Mahapapma, very sinful. Vidhi enam iha vairinam. Know this as the enemy here. So this is the second verse in which he's used the word enemy to describe desire. Okay? So, first of all, what is desire? Desire is the strategy of the intellect to fulfill an unfulfillment felt within. So, it begins with a sense of emptiness that we all experience. You wake up in the morning reaching out for a cup of coffee or tea, and then it goes on. You're constantly wanting something or the other because you experience this sense of unfulfillment, incompleteness, emptiness inside of you. So you want to fill that. And when thoughts go from you, from your mind, out into the world to obtain objects and beings with the idea of filling this emptiness, it is called desire. A thin stream of thoughts is called attachment. When you keep on investing in it, a thick stream of thoughts going from you to a particular object is called desire. So, emptiness is the precursor to desire, right? If you haven't if you haven't had your lunch and you've come here, however keen you may be to understand the Bhagavad Gita, your thoughts will go towards an object called food. But if you've had a nice heavy meal, holiday, Sunday, and you've come here, even if I were to suggest food, you will reject it. Your mind will reject it because you're full. Now, the Bhagavad Gita and Vedanta tell us something that you may not accept straight away. But you need to think about it. And that is that even as you feel that emptiness, you are in reality, in truth, full. Not just full, completely full. Paripurna. Purna, full. Paripurna, supremely full. But then what is the problem? For some strange reason, you don't know your fullness. So when you don't know that you are full, you become a fool. Then you're running after things. Huh? And it's most ridiculous. We have a parable where they say in a state there was a terrible flood. And in that flood, everybody perished. Except the entire royal family was wiped out. Except for the young prince, who was 3-month-old infant. The governess, in her wisdom, put this prince, the heir to the kingdom, in a basket which floated and saved him. And she herself died. But before she died, she told everybody, the future king is alive, find him. And died. When the floods receded, who were the survivors got together and said, we must find this prince. Where is he? They looked all over, couldn't find him. 20 years passed. In the interim, this infant survived, but he had no one to look after him. So he became a beggar, begging on the very streets where he was king for 20 years. And when he was 20, once the palace guards came, caught him and took him away. So he thought he was being, periodically he would get picked up, taken to the beggar's home and then released. So he said, I haven't done anything, don't catch me. They didn't listen to him. They took him to the palace and they did a blood test and verified that this is our king. So they first gave him a nice scrub because he hadn't had a bath for so many days. Took off his beggar clothes, put royal clothes on him, put a crown on him, put him on the throne and said, Your Majesty, you are our king. He didn't understand what it meant. So he said, what does that mean? So they said, you give orders, we follow them. So he said, okay, first order, make way. And he bolted. He wanted to go back to his beggar's life. They caught him, put him back on the throne and said, Your Majesty, we have looked for you for 20 years. We're not going to let you go. That after all, he had royal blood in him. He became a very good king. On the first anniversary of his coronation, they had planned a huge party for all the citizens. And this king took his old beggar clothes in a plastic bag and gave his security guards the slip and ran away. Put the beggar clothes on, went to the same street where he was begging for 20 years. And now he started begging again. Right? So the reaction was, some shopkeeper said, oh, this idiot has come again, get out. Some others said, oh, we missed you, where were you? And they gave him a bonus. Now, who is he now? King. Who was he a year ago? Beggar? Was he the beggar? Huh? No. Who was he? King. Then what's the difference between 1 year back and now? Knowledge. Ignorance. Today he knows he's king. Last year he did not know he was king, and that made a world of difference. Today he's still begging, like 1 year back. But it doesn't make any difference to him because he owns the whole kingdom. Even when someone refuses to give him, the money that that guy owns is still his. He's the king. This is the difference between us now. We are like the king in ignorance. We don't know. It's not that you're not full. You just don't know. And it is this that makes utter beggars of us. Every day we wake up and go out into the world begging for what? Food to eat, things to see, nice music to listen to, everything we are asking for. When the whole universe belongs to us. What a tragedy. It's not just tragedy, it's immense tragedy. Mahati Vinashti, Vinashti, supreme loss. Mahati Vinashti, supreme, most of supreme losses that you just don't know. And when these masters come to tell us, you say, leave me alone. I have my life to lead. Why are you interfering with me? Why are you inviting me to Bhagavad Gita lectures? Leave me alone. Get out. But the masters don't listen to you because they understand you're like children. You just don't know what you're saying. So they come back to you again and again and again out of sheer affection, hoping that someday someone it'll strike them and say, yes, I'm with you. Let's go. And then you change. Then you don't need help. You're on your own. It's like that movie, what was it? Legend of Bhagavans. The caddy is with him till he understands. Then he just walks away. He says, you're going, you're leaving me. The caddy says, you don't need my help. That's what it is. Until then, until it gets you, until it hits you, you need help. So, born of Rajas, our mission is to rise above Rajas and Tamas and establish ourselves in Sattva. That suspicion must be there. That maybe I'm full and I don't know it, which is why I'm asking for things. And so, how will you deal with desires? Objectively. You say, right now I have some silly desire. Let me fulfill it if I can, if it doesn't interfere with my plan of things in life. If it doesn't interfere with my mission in life, fulfill it, get it out of your system. But you're not riding on it. You're not dependent on it. You're not eating your heart out for the object of desire. You know? So this moment onwards, when you leave this hall this evening, every time a desire comes to your mind, tell yourself, I am Paripurna. But I don't know it. At this time, this desire is bothering me. What do I do with it? Then you'll become objective. Then your whole attitude will change. You get it? That's what it is. Now, sattva surfaces in your mind between 4 and 6 a.m. Please remember this, 4 to 6 a.m. If you wake up after 6 a.m., your sattva is gone. You've killed it. You've slept through it. Most of us wake up after 6. So, what needs to be done is, I'm not saying wake up at 4 o'clock. You'll get jet lagged sitting here in Mumbai. Wake up just half an hour before your normal waking time. That's it. And that half an hour, invest in the study of the Bhagavad Gita. Like I said yesterday, we have the pen drives on the Gita. If you want, you can take them. You can follow whatever method you want to. But it must be exposure to the higher values of life in a systematic way, not random. Random study doesn't help. It's like you will never become a doctor if you go to the final year MBBS first, and then after 3 months you come to first year, and then you go to 12th standard. You'll never be a doctor or an engineer for that matter. It is a program. It's a systematic study of the subject that gets you the knowledge. Then Rajas surfaces from sunrise to sunset because During this time, you are active. The whole world is active. Even birds and animals come alive. And post sundown, tamasic qualities come to the surface. That is why they say sundowner. You know what sundowner is? That you're very familiar with. All nefarious activities start in the dark. And what are we doing? Increasing that after dark period, cutting off sattva and somehow keeping rajas alive. It's the worst thing that you can do. So we are all a combination of the three, sattva, rajas, and tamas. It's like coffee, Swami Chinmana used to say. Anywhere in India you go, you can get coffee. But coffee is basically a combination of decoction, filter coffee, decoction, milk, and sugar. You go to Punjab, the proportion will be totally different. It will be predominantly milk, then little decoction and sugar. You go to Gujarat, 80% sugar, little bit of decoction and milk. You go to South India, it's loaded with decoction. A little bit of milk and little bit of sugar. But these three are there in any sample of coffee. So our business is to increase the sattvic content, keep the rajas going, keep your activity going, and declare war on your tamas. We are doing just the opposite. And this mindless, stupid race after money. Why are you chasing after money so much? When I first went to the United States for lectures many years ago, in 85, I think, my host happened to be the son of a senator, extremely wealthy person, but interested in this subject. So he realized he must have been 27 and I was around in my 20s, 22 or something. And he said, "Is this your first visit to the United States?" I said, "Yes." So he took it upon himself to, in and through the lectures, to show me around. I still remember he drew a map of New York, Manhattan, in this 6 blocks. He says, "You see these 6 blocks here? They rule the world." And he took me to World Trade Center and this, that, and the other. He was saying, and he introduced me to other people like him, 27-year-olds. They were called yuppies then, young urban professionals, all super wealthy, young, slim, fit, all of them. What a pleasure it was to talk to them. But what he said at that time is that he said, for you to enjoy the best that the world has to offer, means you have a private yacht, the best of homes, private jet, private everything. You need, I've forgotten the exact amount, the figure that he quoted, but let's say $250 million. Beyond that, it's just a figure. You can't eat it. You can't eat money, right? You can't ride in more than one car at the same time. You can't ride in more than one jet at the same time. Things like that. So still, he said, everybody is running after money and they have much more than $250 million. They have billions. Still, the richest guy wants more money. This is the madness of mankind. And on the other hand, you don't have happiness. You can't get along with your wife, your husband. You have problems with children. You have anxiety issues. You can't sleep, insomnia issues. You're not addressing that. Every day, what are you doing? Earning more money. It's ridiculous. So, what you need to do is say, I am used to this standard of living. I must have it. Be generous with yourself. Add another 25%. Then that, once you achieve that, then at least you must Shift gears and say, let me now learn how to become happy. Let me invest in my future. Anytime, any of us can drop dead. You've just heard today what happened. This can happen to us, right? Until the last moment, what has this person been doing? Running after money. What are you going to take that money to your next janma? Are you going to take your family members? Go home today and ask your loved ones, when I die, will you come with me? You won't get an answer. And if you push further, they'll say, why do you want to talk about morbid things? And even if they say they want to come, they can't. It's not possible. You can't take anything with you except the state of your mind and intellect, your inner personality and your vasanas. What are you doing about it? What are you doing about purifying the mind? What are you doing about strengthening the intellect? What are you doing about upgrading your desires and vasanas? Sweet nothing. So you remain the same. That's why Shankaracharya says, Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam. Again and again you're going through the same trauma, the same problems, the same heartaches, the same heart attacks. When are you going to learn is the question. This doesn't mean you have to change your life. You just have to change your thinking. That's it. So, Mahashana Mahapapma Vidhi Enam Iha Vairinam. Know this as the enemy here. Next verse 38.
आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेणानलेन च.
This verse is a beautiful blend of poetry and philosophy. So he says, as fire is obscured by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an embryo by the uterus, so is this Atman covered by that desire. So we are all Atman, we have the spirit, and it's covered by three kinds of desire. What? You moved ahead. The chanting was also that.
धूमेनाव्रियते वह्निः यथादर्शो मलेन च यथोल्बेनावृतो गर्भः तथा तेनेदमावृतम्.
Sorry about that. So there are three metaphors that he gives here because there are three kinds of desire, three types of desires: sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. And these have been characterized, actually given life in the Ramayana. Vibhishan, sattvic. Even when Ravana, his brother and the king, went the wrong way, Vibhishan stood for his principles. Sattvic person. Ravana, you all know, rajasic. Just succumb to desire, and you look at Ravana and you know what happens when you succumb to desire. It's terrible, disastrous. You just get destroyed. One desire is enough to finish. And Kumbhakarna Tamas, he just slept through the whole thing. So, sattvic desire is like smoke around fire. Now, in each of these, there are two things. One is, can you see Atman through this covering? So, sattvic desire is like smoke. Have you been to Mahabaleshwar in winter where you have fire and there is a thin film of smoke around it? So there are two things about it. Even though the smoke is there, you can see the fire through it. And number two, you don't need to put effort to remove the smoke. Just a gentle breeze is enough, and the smoke goes away. Sattvic desire is like that. It's so refined, it's so subtle that even when it's there, you see the brilliance of Atman in such a person. There is that, the vibes, there is that, I don't know what you call it, but there's something about a sattvic person that is extremely attractive. I'm not talking about looks, the personality, purified personality. And all you have to do is become 100% sattva, it goes by itself. You don't need to put in effort. Rajasic desire is like dust on a mirror. When you go on vacation, let's say, or there are NRIs who come here only once a year. After a year, they come, everything is covered in dust, even though the whole home is shut. You can't see your reflection in the mirror clearly, it's blurred. And the dust doesn't go by itself, you need to take a duster and wipe it off. Rajasic desire is like that. You need to put in effort to rise above the selfishness and ego and all the impurities. And it clouds the vision of Rajas. So even though you admire a person's activity and in his performance and the wealth and power that he has, there is something disgusting about the person. You don't feel like going very near to that person because there's desire, there's selfishness, there's ego there. Tamasic is like an embryo in a uterus. However much you may want to see the baby, your own baby, in spite of all the science and technology, you don't know exactly what it looks like. So, in a tamasic person, the qualities are so disgusting, indulgent, slothful, indifferent, care a hang attitude, indulging in things like alcohol and drugs and rash driving and things which turn you off. And to overcome tamas, it not only needs effort, but it takes a time. So you may be in a hurry for your child to be born, but you have to wait. So tamas is like that. Now, Atman is in you. See, Atman is all over the place. So when you ask people, when you ask a wise person, a realized soul, where is God? Says everywhere. I see God everywhere. You can't see God even in a temple. There's this story of the little boy Gopal who calls out to Krishna when he has to go to school. He's afraid of the wild animals. And when Guru Purnima comes and he asks Krishna, because his mother is poor widow, for he's very excited that today is the day that I have to give my Guru a gift, Dakshina. So he asks Krishna because his mother doesn't have. Krishna gives him a little katori of milk. He's so excited, he goes and gives it to the Guru. Guru looks at it contemptuously and sets it aside. But that little katori of milk never gets emptied. The Guru's wife empties it, it fills again, empties it, fills again. That is the spirit with which you give. Yeah? That has miraculous results. So it is not Krishna's miracle. It is that boy's sincerity that he gives his heart and soul. So, how did I get into this? Then the Guru says, who gave it to you? He says, Krishna. Where is he? He's there in the forest. He brought me here. He'll take me back home. Show me. The Guru goes with the boy. The boy calls out to Krishna. Krishna comes. These two chat. They play. The Guru can't see Krishna. So it's not something that you can see with your eyes. It's like, is there butter in milk? Yes, you know it. But can you see butter in milk? No. God is like that. Spirit is like that. So it requires a different kind of attunement to align with God. There was an old lady, American lady, who lived by herself. She didn't have anybody. So every day she would open her door and say, "Praise the Lord." She had to talk to someone, so she decided to talk to God. Her neighbor was an atheist. Every time she opened the door and said, "Praise the Lord," he would open his door and say, "There ain't no Lord." So she continued nevertheless. One day she came across bad times. She didn't have enough money to buy groceries for the next week, following week. So she opened the door and told God. That guy listened, the neighbor. So what he did was he went to the store and bought exactly what she needed for milk, sugar, this, that, and the other. And a big bag he kept on her at her doorstep. Next morning she opened the door. She says this bag of groceries. And she naturally concludes that God has given. So she's praising. She says, "Thank you, God, you're really great because you gave me groceries." The neighbor opens his door and says, "You fool, God didn't give you the groceries. I bought them and kept it there to prove to you that there is no God." She continued praising God. She said, "God, you're really great. Not only did you give me the groceries, but you made the devil pay for it." So, a person who has the ability to zero in on God is not deterred by anybody. You go and tell her there's no God, she does. She says, "I know there is God, I don't know about you." So that is that conviction that you have in a higher divine power that blesses you. 39.
आवृतं ज्ञानमेतेन ज्ञानिनो नित्यवैरिणा कामरूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्पूरेणानलेन च.
O Kaunteya, son of Kunti, knowledge is veiled by this unquenchable fire in the form of desire, the constant enemy of the wise. Nitya Vairana. So, desire is equated to fire because just as no sample of fire will say, "I've had enough, it is ready to consume the whole city, the whole world it will consume, given a chance." Hmm? Desire is like that. You start with saying, "I want only one thing," but it never ends. Unquenchable, insatiable. And it goes on and on. And then the next thing is that it veils your knowledge. So it's like this. You need to have a little knowledge of physics to understand this. Take a look at this diagram. There's a trough of water. When the water is still, not moving, you can see your reflection in the water very clearly. Right? So the incident ray is like consciousness, Atman. It enlivens the intellect to think, the mind to think. The reflected ray is the concept, I know. So the trough of water is like your mind, full of thoughts. When when the mind is calm, then the mind functions perfectly. You have access to your knowledge. But now look at the next diagram. When the trough of water is disturbed, what happens? The incident ray is still perfect. You understand incident ray? The light that hits the water is still perfect. Is the reflected ray that goes all over the place, you can't see your reflection. Similarly, when the mind is agitated, you have knowledge, the knowledge is there. But because the mind is agitated and the incident ray is also there, Atman is still enabling you. But the reflected ray goes all over the place. And you have no access to your own knowledge. This is why no surgeon operates on his own family members. He may be the best surgeon for the ailment that his wife has, and He may be the most qualified person, but he cannot operate. Why? Mind is agitated. Other patients with whom he has no connection, perfectly he operates. When it comes to his own wife, his own sister, his children, mind gets agitated, his fingers tremble. He's not qualified to operate. It's sad, but this is it. Now, this agitation of the mind comes because of desire. What is desire? Desire is equivalent of a small cloud. Now, during the monsoon, if you take, like this afternoon, it was dark, just thick cloud cover. But if you look at a picture of the earth and you are in Mumbai and the sun and the cloud covering your home, not even the whole of Mumbai. What is the cloud? It's a small speck. Yet, because you are under the cloud, you say there is no light, there is no sun. Similarly, when the mind is agitated, you are under a cloud, literally under a cloud of agitation. There is no There's no knowledge, there's no wisdom. And this is the deadliest thing. That is why last time we saw a tennis player at match point plays miserably. A batsman up to 90, he plays brilliantly. After that, he's like a Maidan player. Why? He has all the expertise. Mind is agitated. And these are experts in the field. These are the very top. What about the rest of us? The mind is agitated all the time. So never do you have access to the knowledge. Now, in the world, we are focusing only on gaining more knowledge. A chartered accountant wants more knowledge, an engineer wants more knowledge, an MBA wants more knowledge. Nobody looks at whether you have the capacity to process that knowledge, whether you have access to your own knowledge, which only the Bhagavad Gita can give you. And nobody wants the Bhagavad Gita, unfortunately. So, this is the state of affairs. Now, trying to remove desire by providing it with the object of desire is like trying to extinguish fire by pouring fuel into it. This is what you're doing. This is what is creating problems in the world. So think. 40.
इन्द्रियाणि मनोबुद्धिः अस्याधिष्ठानमुच्यते एतैर्विमोहयत्येषः ज्ञानमावृत्य देहिनम्.
It is said that the sense organs, the mind, and the intellect are its abode. Having obscured wisdom through them, it deludes the embodied. So now the assumption is that you are all geared up to tackle desire. So now you must know where it is. This is the enemy. Where is the enemy? Arjuna wants to know. So he says the abode is senses, mind, and intellect. So with this verse, we enter the last topic, how to remove obstacles. The focus of infection is senses, mind, and intellect. So there are 5 ways to deal with desire from a very practical standpoint. We all have positive desires. We want to do well in life. Like this morning, I was talking to a school student saying, you want to do well in your exam, right? Yes. But first day, she's prepared a program of preparation for the exam. First day today, she's out. What has she done? She's gone playing with video games or something, and her preparation is gone. So, positive desires that you have, you must encourage them, feed them. Harmless desire, a positive desire is you want to become a better person, you want to study the Bhagavad Gita. Please encourage that desire. Don't kill it. Harmless desire. Today you say, 7 days I've listened to the Bhagavad Gita, I owe myself a treat. So you decide to go out to dinner. Fine. Enjoy yourself. Take us also with you. Third, petty desire. I don't know what petty desire is. Yeah, you want to watch a movie on Netflix when you have the time? Watch it. Strong desire, you must analyze and fulfill it in as dignified and proper a manner as you can. Like if you have a desire to get married, now most of us are already way past that, but one or two young people are there. Suppose you decide you want to get married, you have to go about it in a rational manner, not just jump at the first opportunity. And negative desires, you must delete from your system. Just press the delete button. If you have been unintelligent enough to entertain negative desires, you have to frustrate it. Next verse, 41.
तस्मात् त्वमिन्द्रियाण्यादौ नियम्य भरतर्षभ पाप्मानं प्रजहिह्येनं ज्ञानविज्ञाननाशनम्.
So in this verse, there is a logical conclusion. Tasmat, therefore, means he has given a foolproof presentation of logical thoughts. Therefore, first control the senses, O Bharatarshabha, bull among the Bharatas. Slay the sinful destroyer of knowledge and wisdom. So, this is the conclusion. It starts with verse 36, Arjuna's question. 37 is Krishna's answer. It is desire, it is anger. Anger is a modification of desire. 38, he gives three types of desires: sattvic, rajasic, tamasic. 39, he says how knowledge is veiled by desire. 40, location of desires. Now he says, therefore, first control the senses because they are the lowest, grossest, easiest to control. Then you go to the mind and intellect. Next, 42.
इन्द्रियाणि पराण्याहुः इन्द्रियेभ्यः परं मनः मनसस्तु परा बुद्धिः यो बुद्धे परतस्तु सः.
So when we speak of getting rid of desires, you can't wish them away. You can't say desire today onwards, I will not entertain you. Doesn't work that way. You have to pick a higher desire. So he gives the hierarchy of desires. The senses are proclaimed as great, the mind is superior to the senses, the intellect superior to the mind, and superior to the intellect is he. He means Atman. So this hierarchy is based on subtlety, and because it is subtle, it's more pervasive and, and therefore more powerful. So the senses are at the bottom of the pyramid. They are gross, they are not that pervasive because sense, see, you can enjoy a sense contact only in the present when there is contact between your sense organ and the object. You've eaten ice cream yesterday, you can't enjoy it today. But when you go to the mind can flash back to your teenage years and relive the pleasures of teenage life, especially when you listen to a song that was prevalent at that time. You can project into the future. A young girl can project into the future and say, when I get married, I will enjoy. She won't enjoy, but that is her delusion. So it's more pervasive and it controls the senses. Like when you're very excited, you lose your appetite. When you're in grief, you lose your appetite. The mind controls the body. Then when you go to the intellect, it's subtler still. You not only can go to the past and the future, but the intellect can go into unknown realms and bring it within your knowledge. An intellectual ideal if you have the mind and body both cooperate with it. And the last is Atman, he. Once you have Atman, once you have a desire for self-realization, all your other desires cooperate with you. So this is the hierarchy. Now, science and technology deals with the world. Only the Indian knowledge system deals with your inner personality, your internal assets. So without developing the internal assets, first of all, you can't even gain the external assets. And if you gain, if you happen to gain, you can't retain. And you can certainly not enjoy. And now we go to the last verse, verse 43.
एवं बुद्धे परं बुद्ध्वा संस्तभ्यात्मानमात्मना जहि शत्रुं महाबाहो कामरूपं दुरासदम्.
This is a highly inspiring verse. Thus, O Mahabaho, having known that which is superior to the intellect, having controlled the self mind by the self intellect, Jahishatrum Mahabaho, slay this unconquerable enemy, Kamarupam, in the form of desire, Durasadam, very difficult to overcome. And see, there are no enemies outside, so don't even look at them. Your enemies are inside you. Deal with them. You will gain control over the world and your inner personality. And it's a win-win situation. So as we disperse today, please don't think that you have finished chapter 3, but just begun it. So we come to the end of this chapter.
ॐ तत्सद् इति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे कर्मयोगो नाम तृतीयोऽध्यायः.
As is the tradition, we'll chant the first verse to indicate to ourselves that our study has only just begun.
अर्जुन उवाच जायसि चेत् कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धिर्जनार्दन तत् किं कर्मणि घोरे मां नियोजयसि केशव.
Now, to continue with our study, you have various options. We have webinars every Saturday evening, 6 to 7 p.m. If you wish to, and it's free, open for everyone. The only thing is you need to register for it. So please, you're most welcome to join us every Saturday evening. And hopefully we'll start in-person classes here like before. So if you are not on on our mailing list already, please leave your details, email ID and your mobile number with us at the counter there. And I strongly recommend you start the daily study of the Bhagavad Gita, for which we have the pen drives. You have an announcement?
When you join the webinars, you can register on our website, vedantavision.org, and you'll get the link to view the webinar live on WhatsApp and by email. Yeah, and now we'll start a little ceremony where. Okay, okay.
Oh, we are blessed to have Jayaji here. And already she has announced that Wednesday classes she is going to start very soon. So just clap it and we'll just ask now only when she is going to start. So we are safe. Please.
I'll let you. We'll
Yeah.
inform.
So, so because this webinar is good, 6 to 7, you should visit that webinar, but at the same time to sit here and to join our youngsters. That is what she was telling all the time. But still we are not finding here. So I wish and pray Krishna is sitting just up here, that in next, as and when she will start at Prempuri, her Wednesday classes, we are all present with our young family and friends. Thank you very much, and nice to see you all here at Prempuri. Join other programs also. From 16 onwards, Hanuman Saraswati Ji Maharaj will address for Mandukya Upanishad, 6 to 7 p.m., 16 to 22 in English. That also will join, we should join. And so many activities and programs are going on. But main is our Jayaji. We'd like to see she comes here and addresses us every Wednesday. Thank you very much.
I must thank the Prempuri Ashram Trust and the Daya Foundation for very kindly organizing this and making it available to us. Prempuri Ashram, I have a very deep association with. I've been coming here for the last, 40 years, I think, ever since I was in my 20s. And the Prempuri Ashram itself is like an ashram. Everybody who comes here feels the vibes of this institution, and I hope and pray that it continues for many, many more years. Thank you.
Now we'll have a little ceremony where Jayaji will give prasad. So can you form a queue from your left?
Q, just come.